The sleek alien vessel appeared in Earth's orbit without warning on a clear morning in 2137. It hovered silently above major cities, its metallic hull reflecting sunlight as people around the world pointed skyward. News channels broadcast continuous footage of the ship as governments scrambled to respond. In Washington, D.C., the United Nations hastily assembled an emergency contact team. Captain Han Sunmai stood at attention as the president gave final instructions. At 42, Sunmai had commanded naval vessels in the Asian Pacific Fleet before being recruited for the Deep Space program. Her calm demeanor and tactical mind made her the natural choice to face humanity's first alien visitors. "Remember, Captain, you represent all of Earth today," the president said, straightening her jacket. "We have no idea what they want." "I understand, Madam President," Sunmai replied. Her heart raced despite her composed exterior. Hours after the ship's arrival, a smaller craft descended to the designated landing zone on the National Mall. A crowd of officials, military personnel, and security teams waited as the craft's door slid open. Sunmai stepped forward as three figures emerged. The aliens walked on two legs but looked nothing like humans. The lead figure stood nearly 7 feet tall with blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Its 4 eyes blinked independently, and a translator device hung at its neck. "I am Ambassador Tech of the Galactic Concord," the alien said, its words translated into flat, mechanical English. "We come to formally recognize Earth's existence within the catalog systems." The initial meeting lasted 3 hours. Sunmai learned that the Galactic Concord included 32 spacefaring species who had formed an alliance for trade, scientific exchange, and mutual defense. The news thrilled humanity. They were not alone, and there was a community of advanced civilizations waiting. But as the meeting progressed, Sunmai noted the subtle condescension in Ambassador Tech's manner. "Your species is now recognized by the Concord," Tech announced formally. "As a minor species with limited capabilities, you will be granted observer status." The aliens' upper eyes blinked in what Sunmai guessed was their equivalent of a dismissive gesture. "This will allow human representatives to attend Concord assemblies, though without voting privileges, of course." Sunmai nodded politely while noting the implications. In diplomatic terms, Earth had just been classified as unimportant, a backwater world barely worth acknowledging. "We are honored by the Concord's recognition," she replied carefully. "Earth looks forward to learning from more advanced species while sharing our own unique perspectives." That evening, the aliens attended a reception at the White House. Sunmai wore her formal naval uniform, moving between groups of alien visitors who seemed more interested in the food and architecture than meaningful conversation with humans. As glasses clinked and camera flashes illuminated the room, Sunmai noticed 2 aliens speaking quietly in a corner. Their translator devices were turned off, but Sunmai's had been specially modified to detect and translate even quiet conversations. She casually moved closer, pretending to admire a painting. "The Kron took 3 more systems last cycle," one alien with ridge-like features whispered. "The Concorde did nothing, as usual." "What could be done?" replied his companion, a female with scaled skin. "The Security Council remains deadlocked. The neutral systems refuse to commit military assets. The Hive Worlds are next, mark my words. Their mining operations are too valuable for the Kron to ignore." Sunmai sipped her water, mind racing as she continued to eavesdrop. The Kron, whoever they were, seemed to be a significant threat, one the Concorde was failing to address. Throughout the evening, she gathered more fragments of information. The Kron Empire had existed for millennia at the galaxy's edge. In recent centuries, they had begun systematic expansion, targeting resource-rich systems controlled by what they termed lesser species, those without significant military power or Concorde protection. At midnight, when the reception finally ended, Sunmai requested an immediate meeting with Earth's Security Council. In the White House Situation Room, she spread out notes taken from memory. "The Galactic Concord isn't the unified, peaceful organization they presented," she explained to the gathered officials. They're politically divided and militarily hesitant. And there's another power, the Kron Empire, that's actively conquering worlds. The defense secretary leaned forward. Do they pose a threat to Earth? Sun Mei nodded grimly. I managed to glimpse star charts on one of their devices. The Kron's expansion path leads directly to our sector. Based on their current rate of conquest, they could reach us within 2 years. Did you confront the ambassador with this information? Asked the president. No, Madam President. I believe we need to gather more intelligence before showing our hand. Sun Mai pulled up an image on her tablet. I also noticed something interesting about Concord technology. They've advanced far beyond us in faster-than-light travel and communications, but their weapons systems seem focused entirely on energy-based technology. No projectile weapons, no missiles, nothing kinetic. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Project Thunderbolt, said the defense secretary finally. Our deep space battleship program. We should accelerate it immediately. Sun Li nodded. The Concord has classified us as minor and primitive. That may actually be our advantage. They don't know our military capabilities or history. The president's face hardened with resolve. Captain Han, I'm appointing you as our permanent liaison to the Concord. Learn everything you can. Meanwhile, we'll prepare as if war is coming. As the meeting ended, Sun Mi stared out the window at the alien ship still hanging in the night sky. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for generations, but now that it had come, it brought not peace but the shadow of war. 200 feet beneath the lunar surface, in a massive cavern hollowed out of the moon's rock, Technical Director Park Ji-ho moved through the final inspection of humanity's greatest secret. The HSS Retribution filled nearly the entire construction bay, its dark hull absorbing the harsh artificial lighting. At 1,500 feet long, the warship represented everything humanity had learned about war over thousands of years of conflict, refined, and adapted for space combat. Final weapons check complete, Park reported, his voice echoing through the massive construction bay as he approached Admiral Kim Ta-won. The HSS Retribution is at 97% readiness. Admiral Kim nodded without taking his eyes off the ship. At 62, he was a veteran of 3 Earth conflicts, with silver hair cropped close to his scalp and a face marked by both age and experience. Since first contact 6 months ago, he had slept perhaps 4 hours a night, driving the project forward with relentless determination. Show me the main gun again, Kim ordered. Park led him to an observation platform overlooking the ship's primary weapon, a railgun nearly 300 feet long, capable of accelerating a projectile to a significant fraction of light speed. The Thunderbolt system is fully operational, Park said with pride. We can launch a tungsten rod with enough force to penetrate any known material. At maximum velocity, impact energy rivals a nuclear strike, but without radiation. Kim ran his hand along the railing. And the missile bays. Fully stocked, multi-stage kinetic penetrators, EMP warheads, and the new quantum-guided swarm missiles. 2,000 units total. The Admiral smiled thinly. Concord Intelligence has no idea what we're capable of, he said, and that's exactly how we want it. The hidden lunar base had existed before first contact, part of Earth's early steps towards space militarization. But the arrival of the Galactic Concord and the troubling news about the Kron Empire had transformed the project overnight. What had been a 10-year development plan compressed into 6 frantic months of around-the-clock work. While Captain Han Sun Mai handled diplomatic relations on Earth, keeping the aliens distracted with tours and cultural exchanges, the moon base had become a hive of activity. 7,000 engineers, technicians, and military personnel worked in 3 continuous shifts, all sworn to absolute secrecy. The Retribution represented a different philosophy than alien warships. Conquered and Kron vessels relied on energy shields and beam weapons, elegant, advanced technology. The human ship instead focused on overwhelming firepower and armor. Its hull contained layers of composite materials designed to absorb or deflect energy attacks, while its weapons were designed to bypass shields entirely through sheer physical force. "Admiral," a young communications officer approached, looking concerned. "We've detected unusual energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. The pattern matches what Captain Han described as Kron warp technology." Kim's expression darkened. "How many ships?" "3 vessels, sir. Small ones. Likely scout ships." "They're earlier than we expected," Park said quietly. Kim turned to his aide. "Contact Earth Command. Then get me Captain Han. I want her here within the hour." On Earth, the Concord Embassy had become a center of activity. For 6 months, Captain Han Sunmai had carefully managed the aliens' perception of humanity, highlighting Earth's art, music, and philosophy while downplaying military history. The strategy had worked. Most Concord representatives viewed humans as an interesting but harmless species, barely worth serious consideration. That assessment changed when Ambassador Tech requested an urgent meeting with Earth's leadership. "We have detected Kron scout vessels entering your system," Tech announced without preamble once the secure room was closed. "This is concerning but not unexpected. Your world has resources that would interest them." "What do you suggest?" asked the UN Secretary-General. The ambassador's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "When the Kron arrive in force, surrender immediately. Resistance is futile and will only increase casualties." "You expect us to simply give up our planet?" demanded the Chinese representative. "I expect you to be realistic," Tech replied. "The Kron Empire has conquered 12 systems in the past cycle. No minor species has ever successfully resisted them. The Concord cannot interfere due to treaty obligations, but we can facilitate favorable surrender terms." 4 hours later, Captain Han's shuttle docked at the lunar facility. Admiral Kim personally met her at the airlock. "You heard about the scouts?" she asked as they walked briskly through the corridors. "Yes." Tech delivered the surrender speech. "Right on schedule," Sunmai replied with a grim smile. "They still think we're helpless primitives." They entered the main observation deck, where Park waited with the senior staff. Through the reinforced windows, the Retribution dominated the view, now fully illuminated as final preparations were underway. "We're accelerating the launch schedule," Kim announced. "We have perhaps 3 weeks before the main Kron fleet arrives. The Retribution deploys in 5 days." "The weapon systems aren't fully calibrated," Park objected. "Then work faster," Kim replied. "We won't get a second chance at this." Sunma stepped to the window, studying the massive ship. "What does the crew think?" "They're about to face an enemy with centuries more experience in space combat." "They're ready," Kim said confidently. Every person aboard volunteered, knowing the odds. Sun Mi turned to face the Admiral. "The Concord has never seen humans fight," she said quietly. "They've categorized us based on technology level, not understanding that primitive doesn't mean weak." Kim's weathered face broke into a rare smile. "And they're about to learn," he replied. Below them, the Retribution's engines glowed as they began their startup sequence. In the darkness of the hidden lunar bay, humanity prepared for war. 7 massive Kron warships tore into normal space near Mars, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. Unlike the sleek Concord vessels, these ships were angular and predatory, designed to inspire fear. Each was twice the size of Earth's largest aircraft carrier, covered in weapon ports that glowed with energy. On Earth, millions watched their arrival through live feeds. Schools closed. Businesses shut down. People gathered in homes and public spaces, faces tense with fear as the invaders approached. Ambassador Tech stood in the United Nations chamber, 4 eyes blinking calmly as the Kron ships appeared on the main screen. "Do not panic," he advised Earth's leaders. "Accept their terms and casualties will be minimal." The Kron commander appeared on screens worldwide. His species resembled large reptiles with gray, scaled skin and vertical pupils in yellow eyes. He wore an ornate uniform with symbols of rank across his chest. "I am War Leader Draz of the Kron Empire," he announced, voice deep and cold. "Your world is now claimed by the Empire. Surrender your governments, resources, and military forces. Resistance will result in orbital bombardment of major cities." The UN Secretary-General looked at the military advisors, who nodded grimly. Earth had no weapons that could reach orbit effectively. The Secretary-General stepped toward the communication panel, prepared to negotiate surrender terms. At that moment, Captain Han Sunmai entered the chamber. "Madam Secretary, please wait. There's something you should see." On the lunar surface, hidden from both Earth and the approaching Kron fleet, 3 massive hangar doors slid open. The HSS Retribution rose first, its dark hull reflecting no light. Behind it came 2 smaller vessels, the Swift and the Defender, support ships built alongside the main battleship. Admiral Kim Ta-won stood on the Retribution's bridge, watching his tactical display as his small fleet accelerated away from the moon. "All weapons systems online," reported his executive officer. "Crews at battle stations." Kim nodded. "Open a channel to the Kron vessels. Let them see us." On Earth, gasps filled the UN chamber as 3 new ships appeared on their screens. Ambassador Tech's 4 eyes widened in genuine surprise. "This is Admiral Kim Ta-won of the Earth Defense Fleet." Kim's voice rang out clearly. "The Kron Empire is not welcome in our system. Withdraw immediately." War Leader Draz's expression shifted from surprise to amusement. "You hide primitive warships behind your moon and think this will save you. The Kron Empire has conquered 100 worlds. Your toys are nothing to us." Kim's face remained impassive. "This is your only warning. Leave or be destroyed." The Kron commander laughed, showing sharp teeth. "Destroy the lead human vessel. Let them learn respect." In the UN chamber, Ambassador Tech moved closer to Captain Han. "What are you doing?" he whispered urgently. "Your ships have no energy shields. Their weapons will tear through your hulls instantly." Sunmiss smiled thinly. "We know." The lead Kron ship fired, a brilliant beam of energy lancing across space toward the Retribution. The human ship made no attempt to dodge. The beam struck its hull and dispersed across its surface in glowing ripples. "Ablative armor," Sunmai explained to the stunned ambassador, "designed to absorb and disperse energy weapons." What followed changed the galaxy's understanding of warfare. The Retribution didn't return fire with energy beams. Instead, ports opened along its hull, launching hundreds of small objects. The Kron ships activated their shield systems, creating the standard energy bubbles around their vessels, designed to stop energy weapons. The objects passed through the shields as if they weren't there. "What are those?" demanded Tech. "Missiles," Sunmai replied. "Physical projectiles with guidance systems and explosive payloads." The Kron ships tried to shoot down the incoming swarm, their point defense systems destroying some, but not nearly enough. The missiles struck hulls never designed to withstand physical impacts. Explosions bloomed across 3 Kron vessels. "Barbaric," gasped a Concord observer as the Retribution fired its main railgun, a huge tungsten rod accelerating to near-light speed. It tore through 2 Kron ships aligned in its path, leaving perfect circular holes before the vessels erupted in secondary explosions. War Leader Draz's face appeared again on communications, now showing alarm. "What is this primitive weapon? How did you penetrate our shields?" Admiral Kim didn't respond. The Retribution fired again. The battle that followed lasted 48 minutes. The Kron ships attempted to adapt, to maneuver, to return effective fire. Their energy weapons scored hits on the human vessels, causing damage to the Swift and scaring the Retribution's hull in multiple places. But their defenses, designed for energy combat, proved nearly useless against kinetic weapons. When the Swift lost engine power, the Defender positioned itself between the damaged ship and the Kron vessels, absorbing punishment while repair teams worked. The final Kron ship attempted to retreat, initiating its faster-than-light drive. The Retribution fired one last time, its railgun round striking at the precise moment of transition. The Kron vessel disappeared in a spectacular explosion that briefly outshone Mars in the sky. Silence fell across Earth's command centers. The impossible had happened. "Status report," Kim ordered calmly. "Swift has heavy damage, but crews report repairs underway. Defender has lost 30% of outer hull plating, but main systems operational. Retribution shows damage to sections 4 through 7, but all weapons systems functional." In the UN chamber, Sun Mai faced the stunned Concord representatives. "Please inform the Galactic Concord that Earth has successfully defended itself against Kron aggression." Ambassador Tech stared at the tactical displays showing the destroyed Kron fleet. This is unprecedented. A minor species has never." The Kron battle group. He struggled to form coherent thoughts. Within hours, the news spread through subspace communications to every world in the Concord and beyond. Footage of the battle, of primitive human ships destroying the feared Kron fleet, played on viewing screens throughout the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds under Kron occupation, the oppressed watched in stunned silence. And then, in secret gatherings, they began to whisper a new word, one that gave them hope. Humans. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Concord, filled with the representatives of 32 spacefaring species. Located on a massive space station at the galaxy's central hub, the hall normally operated with formal precision and careful diplomatic protocol. Today, all order had collapsed. "I demand to know how the humans concealed these military capabilities," shouted the Vril ambassador, his tentacles waving in agitation. "Our assessment classified them as a pre-interstellar civilization." "The footage must be fabricated," insisted another representative. "No minor species could defeat a Kron battle group." Ambassador Tech stood at the center of the storm, having just presented his official report on the battle in Earth's solar system. The four-eyed diplomat had witnessed the engagement firsthand, and his testimony carried significant weight. "I observed the battle myself," Tech repeated for the third time. The human vessels employed weapons based on physical projectiles, missiles, magnetic acceleration cannons, and what they term kinetic kill vehicles. The Kron shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were completely ineffective. The luminary representative, a being of semi-translucent flesh who represented one of the oldest Concord species, rose to speak. Silence fell immediately. "These humans don't fight like civilized beings," he argued, voice carrying clearly. "They use kinetic weapons, physical destruction. No advanced species uses such methods. Such warfare was abandoned thousands of years ago as too destructive and uncontrollable." On the main display, footage of the battle played again. The assembly watched as the Retribution's railgun tore through two Kron ships, leaving perfect holes before they exploded. Many representatives turned away. The Concord science director, a small gray-skinned being, activated her speaking light. "Our preliminary analysis suggests human military technology developed along a completely different path than other known species. While most civilizations discover energy manipulation and shield technology early, humans focused on improving projectile weapons and armor. The result is surprisingly effective against our standard defenses." In another part of the station, the Kron ambassador addressed his own gathering. Unlike the chaotic Concord assembly, this meeting was disciplined and grim. The footage playing here had been edited to emphasize human aggression. "These savages must be destroyed," the Kron ambassador declared. "Their unpredictable violence threatens galactic stability. They attacked our peaceful scouting force without provocation." His audience nodded in agreement. Kron propaganda networks were already spreading a narrative across their controlled systems. Humans were dangerous primitives who had somehow acquired space technology without evolving past their violent nature. They needed to be exterminated before they could spread. 3 days after the battle, Captain Han Sunmai arrived at the Concord station as Earth's official representative. She had never left her solar system before, and despite the grave circumstances, she found herself momentarily breathless at the sight of the massive structure against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. The human delegation was small, just Sun Mei and 3 advisors. They were escorted directly to the assembly hall, where all eyes turned to watch them enter. Many representatives had never seen a human in person before. Sun Mei wore her formal naval uniform, decorated with the New Earth Defense Force insignia. At 5'6", she was shorter than most species present, but she walked with straight-backed confidence to the speaker's position. "Representatives of the Galactic Concord," she began, her voice clear and unwavering. "I come before you today as humanity's voice. You have questions about our defense of our home system. I will answer them plainly." For the next hour, she explained humanity's position. She did not apologize for destroying the Kron ships. She did not justify their weapon choices. She simply stated facts. "Humanity has survived thousands of years of our own wars," she concluded. "We understand conflict like few species can. We don't want war, but we will never surrender to oppression. We seek peace through strength, not submission." The assembly hall remained silent after she finished. Then the luminary representative spoke again. "Your species has existed for mere moments in cosmic time, yet you presume to lecture us on galactic politics. The Kron Empire is ancient and powerful. They will not forgive this defeat." "We don't expect forgiveness," Sun Mai replied simply. "We expect respect." After the formal assembly adjourned, Sun Mai was approached by representatives from 5 different species in a private meeting chamber. They moved nervously, checking for surveillance before speaking. "We've suffered under Kron rule for generations," said one, a female with iridescent scales. "My homeworld was conquered 80 years ago. Our resources are stripped while our people live as second-class citizens. If humans can fight them, perhaps we can too," added another representative. "We need to know about your weapons, your tactics." Sun Mei studied them carefully. "You're talking about rebellion." They nodded. "The Kron control 17 systems," the scaled female explained. "But they rule through fear, not loyalty. If they showed weakness..." Sun Mei considered her next words carefully. Earth needed allies, but promising military support to rebellion movements carried serious risks. Before she could respond, her communication device activated. Admiral Kim's face appeared, his expression grave. "Captain, you need to return immediately. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected a massive Kron fleet assembling at the edge of our detection range. At least 20 ships, including what appears to be their flagship." "The World Crusher," whispered one of the alien representatives, fear evident in his voice. "They've never deployed it except to make examples of worlds that resist." Sun Mei looked from the aliens to Kim's face on the screen. "How long do we have?" "At their current rate of approach, 2 weeks at most. The Retribution has been repaired, and the Swift will be operational in 3 days. We've rushed the Vengeance into service, but it's barely completed testing." Sun Mi turned back to the alien representatives. "It seems we'll have a chance to demonstrate human resistance again very soon." "The World Crusher has destroyed entire planets," the scaled female warned. "No one has ever stood against it and survived." Sun Mi's expression remained determined. "Then we'll be the first." The 3 human warships hung in space near Jupiter's orbit, their dark hulls almost invisible against the blackness. The Retribution, largest of the 3, had been repaired after the first battle. The Swift, renamed Defiance after extensive rebuilding, and the newly completed Vengeance formed a triangle formation. Behind them lay Mars, Earth, and everything humanity had ever known. Admiral Kim stood on the Retribution's bridge, hands clasped behind his back. His crew worked quietly at their stations. No one spoke unnecessarily. They all knew what approached. "Enemy fleet detected," announced the sensor officer. 23 vessels emerging from hyperspace. On the main view screen, space itself seemed to tear open as the Kron fleet arrived. 22 warships emerged first, each larger than those in the previous battle. But they were merely the escort for what followed. The World Crusher appeared last, dwarfing everything around it, 10 times the size of the Retribution. The flagship of the Kron Empire resembled a massive, jagged spear. Along its length, weapon ports glowed with building energy. "By the stars," whispered someone on the bridge. Kim's expression didn't change. Battle stations. Execute planned thermovila. Throughout the human fleet, crews moved to their positions. On Earth, billions watched through live feeds. In hidden bunkers deep beneath the surface, governments prepared for the worst. The main screen flickered as the Kron established communication. The face that appeared belonged to Supreme War Leader Kraz, cousin to the Emperor himself. His scales were adorned with jewels that marked his high rank. "Humans," he said, his voice deep and contemptuous. "I am Kraz, Supreme War Leader of the Kron Empire. For your crimes against Imperial forces, you will be erased from history." Admiral Kim's reply was equally short. "Come and try." The transmission ended. For a moment, silence filled space between the fleets. Then everything exploded into motion. The Kron fleet advanced as one, energy weapons charging. The human vessels didn't meet them head-on. Instead, they separated, accelerating in different directions. "What are they doing?" demanded a Concord observer watching from their station. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings viewed the battle through Concord broadcasts. What they witnessed would change galactic politics forever. The Defiance and Vengeance headed for Jupiter's moons, using the natural satellites as shields against the Kron's energy weapons. The Retribution activated hundreds of small objects that scattered in all directions. "Drones," explained Captain Sun Mi to the Concord representatives watching beside her. "Unmanned vehicles that create false signals and launch their own weapons." The Kron targeting systems, designed to lock onto large energy signatures, became confused by the swarm of small, fast-moving objects. Their first volley largely missed the human ships. The Defiance emerged from behind Io, Jupiter's volcanic moon, and fired its main railgun. The projectile struck a Kron cruiser, tearing through its hull. Before the Kron could respond, the human ship disappeared behind the moon again. "Primitive but effective," noted one alien observer. The most shocking revelation came next. As the Kron adapted their tactics, the human vessels responded instantly with perfect counter-moves. "How do they react so quickly?" asked Ambassador Tech. "Advanced eye battle systems," Sun Mi explained. "Artificial intelligence that can process tactical information and respond faster than organic minds." The Kron had always relied on living commanders making decisions. Their computers assisted but never controlled their ships. The human AI systems could make thousands of calculations per second, predicting Kron movements and responding optimally. But the World Crusher had not survived centuries of warfare by being easily defeated. Its massive weapons finally locked onto the Defiance as it emerged from cover. The energy beam that struck the human vessel cut it nearly in half. "Defiance is lost," reported the Retribution's executive officer. "All hands." Kim nodded grimly. "Activate the ODIN protocol." The Vengeance took heavy damage next, its engines failing after 3 direct hits. But before the Kron could finish it, the crippled ship activated its final program. Its remaining missiles launched not at the Kron ships, but at Jupiter's outer atmosphere. The massive gas giant's hydrogen ignited briefly where the weapons struck, creating an electromagnetic pulse that washed over the battlefield, temporarily disrupting Kron systems. In that moment of confusion, the Retribution struck. It had maneuvered to the World Crusher's blind spot and launched everything it had: missiles, drones, and finally, its main railgun at point-blank range. The World Crusher's shields failed under the assault. The railgun round punched through its central section, striking something critical deep within. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then secondary explosions began rippling along the massive ship's length. The pride of the Kron Empire broke apart, fragments spinning away in all directions. Supreme War Leader Kraz's final transmission showed genuine shock. Impossible. The surviving Kron vessels retreated in disarray, their aura of invincibility shattered forever. The Retribution, heavily damaged with fires raging through 4 decks, limped back toward Earth orbit. Admiral Kim, bleeding from a head wound after a console explosion, watched the Kron fleet flee. "Send word to Earth," he ordered quietly. Victory. In the aftermath, the Galactic Concord formally recognized Earth as a major power. The emergency assembly session lasted 3 days, resulting in Earth receiving full membership status, the fastest elevation in Concord history. But the greater change happened throughout Kron-controlled space. Within weeks, reports reached the Concord of uprisings on 12 subjugated worlds. Species that had lived under Kron rule for generations found new courage. "What have we unleashed?" asked a Concord elder as reports of uprisings reached the assembly. Ambassador Tech, watching Earth rotate peacefully below the station, replied, "Something the galaxy has needed for a long time. Hope." 6 months later, Captain Sunma, now Ambassador Han, stood beside Admiral Kim on the observation deck of the new Concord embassy in orbit around Earth. Below them, their homeworld turned serenely. Above, construction crews worked on Earth's growing defense fleet. "The Kron have withdrawn from 3 systems already," Sunma noted. "The rebellions are succeeding." Kim nodded. "And the Concord has finally found its backbone. Their peacekeeping fleet is actually keeping peace for once." "They're afraid of us," Sunma said quietly. "Good," replied Kim. "Fear keeps the peace sometimes, but they're also learning from us. Several species have begun developing their own kinetic weapons. Across the stars, humanity's reputation spread. Feared warriors, yes, but also determined protectors of the oppressed. Earth had become a beacon for countless beings who had forgotten how to resist tyranny. The galaxy would never be the same. In the darkness between stars, the Retribution's successor took shape in Earth's shipyards, larger and more powerful than its predecessor. But alongside it grew something even more important, a new galactic order where freedom had a fighting chance. The end.